Absolutely. You could be sitting in the Hall of Fame and the world will know your name. Oh boy, when I hear the song, I get so excited. And of course, it means that I've taken my seat on a Thursday evening about to speak to an amazing guest here on Personality Profile on Joy 99.7 FM. I'm Lexis Bill and I'm happy that you're listening in today. Yeah. This is your superstation Joy 99.7 FM. Welcome to Personality Profile. And this evening I've got a very exciting guest for you, a very interesting man that you'd love to know about. In fact, we've been off for a while, but I had to return with one of my favorite people. I'm not that dear brother as well, so you know that I'm in good company. Yeah. So before we actually get started, know that this conversation is live on our Facebook page. You can actually go onto the Joy FM Facebook page and check it out. You can share in your WhatsApp groups and let your friends and family know about it. Yep. Relax. It's going to be a very good evening, an hour of great conversations with today a very astute business professional, a man with vast and diverse working experience with expertise in strategy development, implementation, governance, transformation, business continuity, credit risk management, and banking operations. Yeah. With 25 years of financial services sector experience in Ghana and Canada, he entered the Ghanaian banking space somewhere 2008 or about as Deputy Managing Director, operations with GCB Bank PLC. So from 2008 to about 2017, he served in various capacities in the bank. Deputy Managing Director, Chief Transformation Officer, Chief Operating Officer, and he actually has worked with various organizations in Canada. From about 1990 to 1995, he served as policy advisor at the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture and Food, as well as the Ontario Ministry of Economic Development and Trade. In 1996, he joined the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, CIBC, holding senior positions in credit risk management as Director of Lending as well. From 2005 to about 2008, he worked with the General Electric Corporation's consumer lending business, GE Money, in Canada. As a senior manager at General Electric, he served as risk leader for 3 business units: credit cards, risk infrastructure, and fraud and mortgages. Well, he served on various boards, several of them, including GCB Bank PLC, Ghana International Bank PLC, London, UK, Star Life Assurance Company, Accra City Hotel, Nestle Ghana Limited. In 2019, actually, May, he was appointed Managing Director of the National Investment Bank, NIB, until about May this year when he exited. My guest tonight, a proud Odadie with the 1974 year group. In fact, he was just telling me that they were actually the second batch who inhabited the current Presec Legon premises, and they were the ones who were catching the snakes and making sure it is safe for us, those of us who came later, the latter day saints. Mr. Samuel Sarpong. In fact, affectionately, we call him Senior Sapini. I'm not sure he was expecting that one.
I wasn't at all.
Welcome, Senior Sapini.
Thank you so much, Alexis. Glad to be with you.
So
this evening.
good to see you. How are you, Senior?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Nice. Was it in Presec that you got that name?
Sapini, yes.
Oh, really? How did it come about? Or did you just use the Sarpong and said,
Sarpong, yes.
We need to find you a nickname,
yes,
Senior Sapini.
That's right. Yes.
But you have some real good fond memories of the days in Presec, isn't it?
Yes, as you already said, we were the second batch that went to the current location near Legon.
Yeah.
And at that time, the campus was new.
Yeah.
Buildings were new. Everything was fresh.
Okay.
And it was a pleasant to be part of the second year group. The only unfortunate thing, as I said, was that the place was newly built and there were snakes all over the place. But other than that, it was a pleasant.
So what, you could find snakes creeping into the dormitories and whatnot?
Exactly. As you walk into a dormitory, there were certain paths that we had on campus, and you see a snake cross. And of course, one of the biggest thing was the guys already called snakes Onufu.
Okay.
And being when I said Onufu, what is it? Is it Nufu or what? So it took time for me to understand that, yes, Onufu is a snake. Yes,
okay, not Nufu.
No.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes,
wow.
yes.
But I'm sure you had some really good times on campus.
We did. During our time, of course, Presec had started being the science college. Actually, I was there when the science college was introduced.
Okay.
And so The new buildings were put up, the
Yeah.
science college, new facilities and all that.
Yeah. But what course did you pursue there?
I did science, actually.
You did science?
Yes. Physics, chemistry, biology.
Oh
Yes,
my goodness,
yes.
where were you heading?
You know, I'm one of those disappointed medical students, right?
All right.
I was good in science, and of course, we had 2 classes of science, and I wanted to change to business. Business was introduced much later when I was in Form 3. But of course, my headmaster would not allow us. All the very good students had to do science.
Okay.
So I pursued physics, chemistry, biology for 5 years. And then following that, I passed well. I had good grades and went to Achimota School for 2 years.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh, so you went to Achimota for a little bit?
Form, yeah.
Ah, I see.
Form, yes.
Well, but for Presec, you couldn't have, Presec give you the foundation.
Of course.
Let's just establish that fact. You understand?
No question about
Before
that.
Achimota comes in
No question
into the
about
conversation.
that, yes.
Yeah.
No question
Anyway,
about that.
I mean, we will talk about school and all of that, but let me say congratulations to you. You did 5 good years at NIB.
Yes.
How was it?
Well, very challenging, but interesting. Given my experience at GCB Bank, I was part of the team that transformed GCB Bank from 2010 to 2016. So that gave me the experience.
Yeah.
And when I was called by the then Minister of Finance, I said, Sam, do you want to go do national service? I said, where? NIB. So basically, I was appointed after seeing the president. I was appointed as the managing director.
Okay.
And the bank was struggling. Of course, the ministry, which is the government is the majority shareholder, and they thought they had a certain position in terms of the capital deficit, and they hadn't done the audit for 2017 and 2018, so we had to come in and do that. Following that, then we realized that the hole was much bigger.
Okay. Much
bigger. I do recall this is one of the most interesting things that a CEO faces. So the auditors come in. I was in the office about 7 p.m. We see the latest financials and we see the capital deficit. It's almost doubled what the ministry had expected.
Wow.
What do you do? I was sitting in my office about 7 p.m. Of course, you have to inform the Minister of Finance. Of course, I spoke to my acting chairman then, and then we had to relay the bad news, and it wasn't a pleasant. This was one of those experiences that you see, and how do I deal with this?
Yeah.
And we had to relay the information to the minister the following day, and of course, he took it in good stride, and then took action in the next budget to basically seek a PCOA to recapitalize the bank in favor of GAT. Yeah.
But how did you feel when you saw those financials?
Oh, it was awful. It was awful. I mean, the bank had completely been run down.
Yeah.
To say the least. The numbers did not look good at all. The capital was eroded, and we had gone deep into the hole. So it was a challenge. I mean, you had to deal with it.
You didn't think, no, I bit a little bit more than I could chew. Or this time you could chew.
Yes, given my experience, I never saw anything in NIB that I hadn't seen before. So I never panicked.
Okay.
I never panicked. It's just the stress of dealing with it. So I never really panicked because most of the issues I'd seen it before. So it wasn't new to me. But the challenge is, how do you go resolving it? And of course, this is capital, and you need money from your shareholders.
Yes.
So it's a different level, and it's basically dealing with that relationship. Did numerous analysis. We analyzed the bank to death in terms of various options, and of course, the immediate issue that we had was how do you stabilize the bank, because it was bleeding, making significant losses. So how do you first of all stabilize it? So you have to go through the numbers, see where the issues are, and then how do you resolve them?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, we'll get into the thick of that part of the conversation, because I know that's your turf. So you love to talk the figures and whatnot. But one of the things, I mean, now that you've exited, I don't know what's keeping you busy. Are you? Would you say you're retired now? What exactly are you doing?
Well,
now?
At this point, I've just exited 3 weeks ago. So
yes. Just 3 weeks ago.
I'm just taking it easy.
Yeah.
I need a couple of months of rest.
Okay.
Detoxify myself and then take it from there.
Yeah.
In various forms of, or people have already contacted me to reach out to partner to do a number of things, but
Okay.
I want to take a couple of months off.
So
And
you wouldn't
rest.
call it retirement, would you?
At this point, I don't think I'm old, but thank God I look young. I mean, that's what I
You
I tell my staff all the time, right?
Yeah,
I look
yeah.
young, so the looks are deceptive, but definitely you have to keep your brains going.
Yeah,
And so definitely
yeah.
I'll be doing it.
And that's actually why I asked, because I think a couple of weeks ago I was having a conversation with Professor Dele
Yes.
of Rabito.
Yes.
And he's still working. And he says, look, Lexis, this whole retirement thing is a myth.
Yes.
Because, I mean, at 60, they're telling you, okay, it's okay, you're tired. You go and relax or go home.
Yeah.
But you have a wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge. You're still active. You're still strong. I mean, look at you. You could pass for a 40-year-old man. Well, yeah, not exactly, but
add 10 or more, right?
yeah, plus something.
Plus something.
But you definitely have a lot to offer. So, what's your take on that?
Well, yes, definitely. I'm looking at a few consulting positions, advisory positions, as well as do some more charity. I think it's time to give up back to having been in business for many years. You don't have the time to do a number of things.
Yeah.
So it's time to also relax and engage in some charitable activities.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking at.
But would you have preferred to continue as MD of NIB?
To the extent that we've laid out a plan in terms of how we're going to transition the bank. But definitely, yeah. So that, yes, the inner desire to continue, it's there. But sometimes you have to just step aside for another person to continue.
To continue.
So for me, I'm
So you don't necessarily feel that you're done with NIB, or you feel that you could have given more to NIB.
Oh, definitely, because I know the bank inside and out. I think I'm one of the few people in Ghana, other than my transformation team, my executives, my deputy who's now taking over, as well as my executive team. We know the bank, and of course the board of directors. I shouldn't take that away from, because they really direct the bank.
Yeah.
So we know more about the bank than any other group in Ghana, and we've charted a path. We've drawn a strategy to transition it back to its original mandate. If you know, NIB was set up to help businesses. So it's helped set up a number of businesses, including Nestle, Ghana, Accra City Hotel, Intravenous Infusions, Nexans Cable. These are companies that are currently operating with NIB having shareholdings in, because they put in equity then. Okay. So we're going back into helping set up businesses. The whole concept of industrialization,
right,
to produce goods locally. That's what NIB has been mandated to go back to.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. If you look back, what's the one thing that makes you smile and say, okay, I think I'm fulfilled. I did my best.
Oh, definitely. The getting the recapitalization, the government to agree to recapitalize it, because there was a lot of work that had to be put in terms of stabilizing the bank and transitioning it to the current state. And of course, that gave the government the confidence to recapitalize the bank, agree to recapitalize the bank. And we had engagements with Bank of Ghana. The IMF team was there. We made presentations to them to give the confidence that we can turn this thing around. It's not complicated. I mean,
what's your biggest regret?
My biggest regret in terms of NIB, there were a few occasions where basically not able to help the staff as much, because we've not been profitable. So the staff had not, their salaries and wages have not been increased significantly compared to current inflation. And so we couldn't do much for them during this period. But the hope is that as soon as we become profitable, the whole salary reviews will take place, and they will be compensated appropriately.
So you feel bad about that?
Yeah, because you're working with a team, and it's not easy. You get a pressure from the unions. NIB is unionized, and how do you explain to people that, guys, can bear with us, let's stabilize it, let's begin to turn the company around,
Yeah.
and then when we are profitable, we can then compensate you appropriately.
Yeah.
Because it's very difficult to compensate you when you're not really making money.
Yeah.
So running that balance, it was very, very tricky, and it was difficult sometimes with difficult engagements with the union. But I think all in all, we did our best.
Was there a particular point or a particular moment that it personally really hit you? And I'm not talking about union level.
Oh yeah, on many occasions, staff would come to you, and when inflation hit, let's say 58%, we had not been able to adjust their salaries to the extent that we should, and even some of the benefits around fuel and all that, they were still below the market. So those were very difficult moments.
Okay. Well, let's get to know you a bit more and take you away from work. Where you from? Where did you grow up? Let's get to understand.
Okay.
You a bit more.
I call myself the little boy from Ekropong. That's why I tell them I'm from Ekropong and Kwapim.
Okay.
That's where I was born.
Yeah. Ufie.
Ufie, yes. That's where I was born. Had my primary education in Ekropong, took class 5, and then had a 2-year stint in Samam, living with my uncle, who was a head master in one of the Presby Boys Middle School.
Oh, okay.
So I did 2 years in Samam, and he actually helped me to become where I am today. Because when I was in Ekropong living with my mom, I wasn't doing well in school. I mean, if you look at we were about 35 in class, I was around about 30 in the ranking.
Hey!
The 2 years that I spent in Samam, my uncle, who was a headmaster, basically after school, I'm sitting behind a table and basically with homework, assignments, and working through the math and English and all that. And that 2 years completely changed. Became the third, I think my third ranking, second, and then first. It's possible for any person, any child, to be transformed once they're given an opportunity and taught properly. Because I was playing in Ekropong, whereas in 2 years in Samam, basically literally changed my life completely. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to become another day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the change? It was just what?
It's just focus, studying. In Ekropong, after school, of course, your mom wasn't educated at the time. So you're playing homework, you never took it seriously.
Yeah.
Her twin brother, who was educated then, was a headmaster. So after school, basically you're sitting there with homework, and assignments, and you're working through the math and all that.
Yeah.
I recall one time when I think 8 times 4, I got it wrong at that time, and of course the knock that I got from him, I remember that day so well, 8 times 4, and I couldn't get it that time. So that really helped me, and I've become a believer in the fact that given the right environment and the proper tutoring and coaching, any child can make it.
Yeah.
Any child can make it.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you didn't mention your dad in the equation.
My dad was a farmer. Basically, we didn't know my dad too much because, he was living in the village. He would come to Ekropong, so I would get to see him occasionally. And that's about
So they were not married?
Well, they were married, but living separately.
Okay.
Yes. And my dad had many wives as well.
How many?
Oh, I can't tell. To be honest, I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know?
I was a child, and I have a number of half brothers and sisters that I don't know the full number. I meet some of them.
But right now there'll be about how many?
Oh, I would say about 15 or so. Yeah.
Papa
15,
was a rolling stone.
At that time, yes. So I didn't have much interaction, to be honest with you. My dad died when I was, I think, in class 6. So I don't know much about my dad. But of course, he gave birth to me, so I thank God for that.
Yeah. Do you think probably your life would have been a little different if he was in your life?
Oh, obviously, I'm sure. I'm sure, definitely, because I think when you have the two parents, it makes a difference. But he was a farmer then, and he would spend most of the time in the village, come to Akropong once in a while.
Which part of
And
the paternal upbringing do you think you missed, or what kind of values do you think he could have brought to the upbringing process?
well, I mean, the discipline, right? I mean, typically, you have situations where the guy basically could be, well, it varies in various marriages. Sometimes the woman is more tougher on the kids than the adult. But um, bringing the ideas in terms of how do men behave, or
Mm.
how do boys behave. I mean, I grew up with women. I
Okay.
mean, basically my aunties and my mom and all those. So basically,
Yeah.
I was around women. I mean,
Okay.
I think I missed the dad's part of things, and
Yeah.
maybe I'm learning that as well over the years. Yeah.
Do you think that contributed to the earlier 30th in class?
I'm sure, but I don't know to what extent my dad would then have helped then, because he was a farmer, and also a linguist to the Omahine then.
Oh, okay.
Very eloquent,
Okay.
I must say, and tall and handsome.
Mm.
That I do remember.
Oh, you're a
about
chief
him
of the
very
old
well.
block then.
Yes, so I don't think so that it would have made any difference really.
Yeah.
It's basically being around an environment where the parents know what they have to do to
Yeah.
help.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that my mom did not understand the value of education, because all of us were educated. I mean, right from the beginning, everybody says education, education, nothing else. When we're growing up, I mean, nothing other than going to school and
Yeah.
aspiring to become a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. I mean,
But what were you aspiring to become?
basically in of course, after pre-sec and going to Achimota, if you know how Achimota, the classes are labeled, so lower six medicals, lower six engineers,
Mm.
and lower six arts. So that's how, so consciously, I mean, all the physics, chemistry, biology guys were supposed to go to medical school.
Mm.
And we aspired. Of course, I couldn't get into medical school.
Okay.
So I opted to do agriculture then. I had opportunity to enter the Tech University Medical School, but at that time it was new and didn't have much career guidance. So I thought, oh, why am I going to a new medical school? Why do I have to bother to enter that?
You should try it out first.
Everybody wanted to go to Legon. I mean, that
Yeah.
was it then. So I opted to do agriculture, and here I am. Yeah.
But why agriculture?
Well, my parents were farmers, right? And I remember my auntie continuing to tell me, oh, yeah, why don't you get education in agriculture, and then you can continue the family tradition in terms of we have lots of farms and lands and
Yeah.
and that. And yeah, at that time.
Usian brand abe yukua.
Yeah, Ekwa. But of course, at that time, it wasn't sexy, right?
Yes,
To be a farmer at
imagine.
all. Like, I mean, but that was what basically
Yeah.
got me into agriculture.
Okay, well, if you're just tuning in, this is Personality Profile here on Joy 99.7 FM. I'm hanging out with the former MD of NIB, Mr. Samuel Sarpong. And you can send us a WhatsApp message on 055 111 I think I just got a message from Father Ray in Toronto, Canada. It says, Lexis, tell Mr. Sarpong that I am listening. Today, I've known one of his names, Senior Sapi. Yeah, that's Father Ray in Toronto. Yeah, thank you so much, Father. You can also send us a WhatsApp on 055 111 or if you're on Facebook, you can drop your comments in there and we will definitely read them. Okay, so now you're done with Presec, you're done with your agriculture studies. What next? What happened?
So I might say I topped my class in KNU State.
Aye,
I was first.
that's right.
Yes.
So all along you were a Shako.
Well,
They wanted
it
to
was
leave you in
hidden.
the farm.
It was hidden. So I topped my class
Yeah.
that year, and basically, of course, I was offered to do national service teaching. So I did 1 year teaching at Tech.
Okay.
I had the opportunity during the period when we graduated and national service to go and take an exchange program working on a farm in Wrexham, Wales.
Okay.
Wrexham is at the border of Wales and England.
Okay.
So I worked on a mixed farm, and basically that was the best experience in agriculture I had.
Well, how
Basically,
so?
well, this was a mixed farm. We had dairy, we had cereals, we had vegetables, and I was exposed to stuff that I hadn't done in tech.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to drive a tractor. So I got there and they asked me, "Can you drive a tractor?" I said, "No." They said, "Well, what kind of education do you have? Agriculture education have you had?" And then, of course, "Do you know how to drive?" "Yes." So he said, "Sit on it. The tractor has 3 gears.
Yeah.
Just," and then I was driving. And of course, you would be talking about productivity. I would be on a tractor alone, let's say fertilizing, let's say about maybe 10 acres of land alone. And
Okay.
you're on there and you're going back and forth.
Wow.
And that talk about productivity. I had the opportunity to also do milk cows. So we had a dairy head of about, I think, 60 or 70.
Okay.
And early morning you wake up and then you go and bring all the cows into the barn and the milking parlor, and then you milk them.
And you milk them.
Yeah,
milk
yeah,
them.
yeah, you milk them. And you create.
Well,
You want to understand all that.
I know, right?
You understand? So milking basically is that you round out all the head of dairy cattle,
Yeah.
and then you have, let's say, about 5 slots on either side.
Yeah.
So they basically go into the slots. You go into a pit so that you can see the udder. You wash the udder. Basically, you put the suction cups on it.
Okay.
After milking, you take off the suction cups and then you put iodine to disinfect the teats.
Okay.
And then they go out. And during that period, they have been fed at the same time.
Yeah.
Because depending upon the level of milk production, they get fed.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then of course you had opportunity to also do wheat, barley,
Yeah.
and basically harvesting and preparing hay and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So
And you didn't bring all that knowledge back to Ekropon.
well, we'll talk about that later. So I came back
Yeah.
from the UK and basically wanted to go back. I had then applied to get into University of Guelph. University of Guelph is one of the North America's best universities in North America, and for my masters. Of course, I couldn't get a scholarship. I mean, they wanted me to wait to teach a little bit so that I could get a full scholarship. I was impatient, so basically I went. And
who funded that?
I funded it through, they had this foreign exchange allocation that time. And basically you pay a certain amount CDs and you get foreign exchange from the Bank of Ghana.
Okay.
But through, I think following the first year, I think the Rawlings administration came in and they canceled all that. But I funded it through research assistant. I was a research assistant. So
Okay.
that's how I funded my master's education, yeah.
And that you did it in what?
In poultry science.
In poultry science.
Yes.
This is a very interesting story, eh?
So I did my poultry science. Once I graduated, 2 years, a week to me leaving, I got an offer. A guy who had a hatchery came looking for somebody who's done something in my space in that area. And he picked me up directly from campus. And so I went to this town called Hanover, which is almost about 2.5 hours drive from Toronto. 2 blacks, 5,000 people, 2 blacks. So that
Are
was
you serious?
Yes. So 2 blacks, but the most exciting thing was I went to set up a quality control program. So I set up a microbiology lab as well as being in charge of the hatchery operations. And that was one of the exciting moments I had. 5 years of experience in that space, you know.
This is quite interesting. So you're in a company that has 5,000 people.
No, a town, a village.
Oh, a village
Yeah.
that has 5,000 people. And it's interesting you emphasize that there were two blacks, and
Yeah.
you're one of those two.
Yeah.
Tell me how those dynamics played at the time.
Well,
Is it the obvious?
well, it's obvious. I mean, well, there were two aspects to it. In the company that I worked for, I was the most educated. So we did get visitors. It was one of the largest hatcheries in Ontario. So we had visitors from all over the world, Russia, China. And you should see me, the black guy in his lab coat, white lab coat, basically explaining the operations to them.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I loved it.
Yeah.
In town, of course, initially it was a bit of a challenge to even get accommodation, but my company helped me get that. It was both sides. You could go to a club and the ladies will come and say, "Can I touch your hair? Can I touch your hair?"
Oh,
You know,
okay.
because you have a curly hair and they hadn't seen it before.
Yeah.
But I had a very good time in the town, 5 years.
We didn't miss the fact that you loved clubbing. I mean, I'm just saying.
No. I mean, I was young then.
I'm just
You know,
saying.
I was that young.
Are you explaining?
I was young then, so
Yeah.
of course you have to enjoy that.
It's expected.
It's expected. Yes.
Okay, so you spent how many 5 years there?
Yes. Basically, dealing with, I know everything about hatcheries.
Okay.
Hatching. I mean, we were producing over 500,000 baby chicks a week.
Wow.
So the quality of the environment had to be precise. After they wash everything, after a hatch processing, I'll go down with my petri dishes, touch every surface to make sure that the level of bacteria is almost next to nothing.
Yeah.
I'll go and basically put the samples in an incubator, and then I'll count and all that.
Yeah.
So just to make sure every surface was precise. I did also experiments in hatching, injecting carbon dioxide into incubators and all that.
Yeah.
To improve the hatchability and all that. Very exciting stuff, really.
And this is what, 30 years ago
Yeah.
or more?
Yeah. I graduated in 1981. So
This was
84.
certainly in the 80s,
So
eh?
early 80s, late 80s.
So that's
Yeah.
almost 40 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait. That knowledge, what's up? All that knowledge, all that
Okay,
experience.
So let me tell you, the level of what I experienced in terms of the type of agriculture required a lot of money. And there was no way without that kind of money I wanted to do anything less than the quality that I'd seen.
Yeah.
So that was one of my major challenges,
Okay.
because I'd seen the top
Yeah.
of production. I mean, this was the biggest hatchery in Canada.
Yeah.
And everything I needed. My boss, Henry Lansing, the owner, would say, "Sam, what do you need? Just get it." And I had my thermometers, electronic thermometers, my carbon dioxide experiment injecting and all that, everything that I had to do.
Okay.
So I'd seen the top, and we had these James Way incubators that would house about 100,000 eggs.
Wow.
Without the capital to come and do anything less than that, I couldn't, to be honest with you. And of course, at that time, I was also young.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about then. I'm talking about now.
Oh,
But well,
so I transitioned into banking. So
that's
yeah.
where we are going now.
Yeah.
Because how then did
Yeah.
you transition
Yeah.
into banking? Because
So after 5
this is the MD of NID, and we've been talking about chicks and milking cattle and stuff. And I'm like,
I
okay,
know.
wait, are we in the same space?
so let's get back to that, because I'm sure.
So how was the transition? Where did it come in?
So after 5 years, I was living in a little town. I was a little bit young then. I remember Henry Langsing, which was my boss, was asking, "Sam, what do you really want to do? What do you really want to do?" And at that time, I'm sure he wanted to buy more farms in my name, but at that time, my mind wasn't there. So I wanted to get into the city, back into the city, and wanted to use my agriculture and also finance. So I decided to go do my MBA then. So left and went to McGill to start my MBA. So I did 2 years of McGill, because at that time you couldn't get work in Quebec, Montreal, without speaking French. And so I
Okay.
just decided, wow, other provinces that speak English. Why am I stuck in a place where, so I got my diploma in management and then came back to Toronto and then finally finished my MBA at Wilfrid Laurier University. And I wanted to use my agriculture and finance. So at that time, most of the banks had agricultural lenders, and I wanted to get in. Of course, at that time, without Canadian experience, it was difficult. You couldn't get into any bank without Canadian experience. So that was a challenge. So I just decided, well, how do I get into a bank? Decided to go and go in as a teller.
Okay.
As a teller, because I knew once I entered, I'll find opportunities.
You find your way up.
Yes, and so I went and took a 6-month course in tailoring.
Okay.
And once I finished that, one of the teachers introduced me to one of the banks. I went there, and the lady said, "No, Sam, let me send your CV to head office." I went there, and 2 weeks they called me. The guy sees me and said, "Sam, you came in highly recommended. I think I'm a good judge of character. I can work with you." That was 15 minutes interview.
Oh, wow.
And he picked me as a trust administrator. That was trust administrator. So you manage trust accounts as well as estate accounts.
What do you think he saw?
Well, I think for me, I come as you see it, genuine and willing to work hard. Get your hands dirty. And that's what I tell all my staff. You have to get your hands dirty. You can be at the top, but you have to understand what is happening on the ground. So that's what I did, and
Okay.
That's what he saw in me. And so I worked there for a few years, and then there was an opportunity with the Ministry of Agriculture, then which then was going to meet my agriculture and finance,
Okay.
because in the Ministry of Agriculture it was developing financial assistance programs for farmers. So I combined that and then basically left a full-time job to go and take a part-time job, like a temporary job at the ministry, because I knew I was going to get in. So finally, after a few years, I was able to become permanent. And that basically got me into using agriculture and finance. But in 1996, I had a Ghanaian friend who worked at the bank, CIBC, and said, "Well, why don't you come over and we'll teach you?" So I entered in as a new entrant, and then they were going to teach us everything about credit risk management.
Okay.
And we're taught, and then that's how my banking career started, actually.
And you actually even rose to become director of lending products.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. You would later even work with General Electric.
Yeah. So after CIBC, I was into credit risk management.
Yeah.
I was the first person who actually managed the 25 billion small business portfolio, small business credit as a portfolio. For the first time, I actually started managing our portfolio using credit scoring and all that. So I did that, and then basically got through it and became director of lending products.
At what point did you decide to come back to Ghana?
I hadn't planned on coming back to Ghana, to be honest with you. So from CIBC, I went to General Electric, because over there, the credit risk guys, you could easily get a job. And the only way to increase your salary significantly was to just change jobs, go from one company to the other. So we just transitioned from company to other. And so I went to GE. I was 3 years there. There was a Ghanaian friend that I helped. He wanted somebody to help one of the staff to come to Canada to do a course in credit collections. So I finally found somebody for the guy here, not knowing that the relationship had even gone further. So the Canadian guy had actually come to Ghana to offer credit course in credit collections.
Okay.
So I came back to Ghana for a visit, and he says, "Well, I should leave my CV with him just in case something comes up. You let me know." And there was an opportunity in GCB as a DMD, and he had sent my CV. So I went to work one morning, and there was a call. A message had been left, a voicemail, and says, "Well, you've been shortlisted for this role. You have to prepare a 5-page vision paper." And so I called, and then I asked about the job, the company. I said, "GCB." "Oh, I wasn't too excited at the beginning. I
You
was
weren't
looking for,
excited?
No, I was looking for Stanchart, Barclays, and those kinds of things,
And in
right?
fact, at the time, it was actually Ghana Commercial Bank.
Exactly.
It wasn't GCB Bank.
Exactly.
It was
Well,
Ghana Commercial Bank.
I changed the name to
We
GC.
serve you better.
Yeah. And we changed it.
You changed
And
it.
I'll talk then Ghana Commercial Banks. Yeah, so
Why weren't you excited?
well, I was looking, everybody wants to work with a group brand, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so having worked at GE, I was looking for, Stanchart, Barclays,
Yeah.
the big brands that you know. Basically, eventually, put in the vision paper. About 3 months later, I was called for an interview.
Okay.
I asked them whether they were going to pay for my trip. They said no. And I said, oh, wow. What a company. Because at that time, we had gone to the U.S. to look for a job in the U.S.
Yeah.
They'll pay your trip and for your
Put you in a
airfare,
fancy hotel.
everything, pick you up from the airport and all that. That's what I was used to. So I was expecting the same. So I decided to come to Ghana for the interview and said, well, let's see what it takes. And I thought, well, for these roles, I mean, there's somebody there. But I just wanted to get a sense into what does it take to get these jobs.
Yeah.
After 4 interviews over the 5 days, I was offered the job.
Okay.
Then I panicked. How do you leave a 6-figure job with GE? Everybody wants to work with GE.
Yeah.
To come to Ghana Commercial Bank. I panicked.
Yeah.
It took me, I got the offer in November 2007. I didn't join till March 2008. Because I was negotiating and hoping things could change. And it was a hard decision for the family as well to just take off.
So what did it for you?
I just basically decided that, well, let me just go and try it. So my first year, second year, I just said, well, let me try it. If it doesn't work, I just go back.
Okay.
So basically, I just made a move and said, well, let me try it.
So what made it work?
Well, it's been challenging. To be honest with you, at one point, I almost left, but...
You almost left?
Oh, yeah.
And was it because of remuneration? Because of 6 figures?
No, it wasn't remuneration. It was... I came in 2008, and I'd been here for almost 9 months, and then the then MD was retiring, so they offered me to take over as the MD. And at that time, I felt I wasn't quite ready because I was still learning the Ghanaian system. Remember, I'd been away for 26 years.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
coming back to Ghana, it was a bit different. I was given an offer. There was a change of government. I didn't know all this politics because my mind was not into this.
Yeah.
And of course, the new board came in and they said, well, they don't mind me being in the MD role, but they feel that I'm new, so they want to bring in a new MD. So then at that point, I said, well, I have an offer. I could say, well, pay me, and I go back. Right?
Yeah.
But later on, when I analyze it, as DMD, you literally run most of the departments, in GCB then. I mean, so other than you had the same PEC, the same house, the same set of vehicles, and so I felt that, well, let me hang around.
Yeah.
And it's been good. To be honest, it's been good.
Let's move to NIB. We're running out of time. I mean, your story is so detailed, and I love it. I wish you could actually go every step of the way. But let's talk about NIB. 5 years. You did a good job. I mean, from the position that you narrated a little earlier. Tell me about where it is now and how possible it is to move NIB probably to a sustainable bank.
Yes. So NIB we've stabilized the bank and we began the transformation. So stabilizing the bank means we plugged all the holes that were causing the losses. Okay. And documented what not to do, the lessons learned.
Yeah.
And I've made sure that has been documented. We have staff debates. We've communicated that to staff. The various departments that basically we had issues help cause the losses. They now know what to do, right? So the training has been given to those areas. So now we develop a new strategy to go back to industry. So we identify the 19 sectors that we're going to go to, and we've trained we had research reports for every sector, and then the relationship managers have been trained. So basically, with a new capital, there must be a lifting of the restrictions over the 6 years. NIB hasn't really lent to businesses, nothing, because there was an embargo by Bank of Ghana
on lending
because it's part of their regulatory measures. If you don't have the adequate capital. So
were the challenges also because of high default rates when it comes to loans?
Yeah, it's three things. Loans. We had some issues with treasury placements. And there was also issues in terms of how we managed the operations. I mean, for me personally, you see big branches. Do you need those big branches? No, of course. So monies went into the development of those big branches. And of course the whole keeping a tight lip on expenditure. So we've done all that.
But the high default rates were largely caused by the interest rates as well. And in this case, I'm not talking about the NIB scenario. I'm talking about Ghana in general, the industry as well. I mean, interest rates are really high.
Well, interest rates are high. There's no question about it, because the government itself is borrowing at high rates. I mean, this argument has been made several times that banks are lending at higher interest rates. I mean, the lowest risk in the market, which is the government, is borrowing through T-bills at what rates? 25, 26. So that goes into the reference rate that has been set by Bank of Ghana, right, which is around 29 or so. And then, of course, you have to add a premium, because it depends upon the risk profile of the bank. So generally, it's an issue. But I mean, companies do well if it's more in terms of how people manage their credit. You have to understand how much credit you need, and you make sure your operations is successful to be able to repay back. But people sometimes go for too higher loans than they can afford, and the due diligence around it in terms of taking collaterals and all that. From the bank's perspective, you have to make sure you do all that to make sure, because once the money goes out and you haven't done your proper due diligence, the money will be lost.
You obviously have had a very torrid time in the banking system, but you've been successful as transforming GCB Bank, NIB, bringing it to this place. What's the biggest lesson all of these things has taught you?
Basically, I feel that it is a management issue. Okay, if you have the right management in a bank, the bank should make money. I mean, we don't do sophisticated banking in Ghana.
And I'm even talking personally. I mean, let's leave management for a bit. Personally, as a man in the thick of all this story that we're sharing, what's that lesson that you've picked up along the line?
Personally, I think for me is the perseverance, right, and having the hope. I'm an optimist, and based upon what I've seen both at GCB and NIB, I mean, you work hard, right, and you have to also bring the people along. So that is the most difficult one. But you see a vision of a bank doing so well. I mean, look at GCB now. I mean, at that time, GCB was making profits at maximum 35 million at that time. And then when we started transforming, we started increasing it to the hundreds. Now they are making over $1 billion. NIB can do the same. So personally, that's what I've imparted to the people, the hope that things will change once we manage it well.
You left a few weeks ago. If we spoke to the team at NIB, you've worked for 5 years, what would you like them to say about you?
Not even what I like to say, what they have been saying about me. I think a lot of people now appreciate the approach that we took. Initially, it was difficult for them because, of course, they are looking at their salaries and you are not increasing it. But now that I'm able to, they see the hope, the work that we've done to a point to ensure that we've given the confidence to the majority shareholder that this bank can be turned around. It's not complicated. I'll tell you. Once you do the right things, the right strategy, making sure you control expenditure, you make money.
Yeah.
In Ghana in banking.
What's the biggest lesson life has taught you?
Biggest lesson life has taught me, basically just to be yourself and also to work hard. To be honest with you, that for me, that's it. Once you persevere and work hard and you have a goal in mind, you'll be able to achieve it.
What's your greatest fear?
My greatest fear is being poor. What has driven me all this time is the fact that I want to be able to be comfortable and be able to afford the things I have to do and to be able to share it with my family and friends.
Are you rich?
So I am comfortable, I would say. I wouldn't say I'm rich. I have enough. Remember, I worked 26 years in Canada, and I worked almost 16 years. And so I've also saved money. And I wouldn't consider myself rich. You just have enough, and that's all that we need. We don't need too much, really, to survive. Enough to be able to take care of yourself, your family and friends, and to give some to charity.
Is that something you wish you had done better?
Oh, there's always more things that you can. In terms of my relationship with, I would say, the staff, sometimes, I felt I was a bit hard on them initially. I hadn't explained to them, and it was difficult. And so I had a few run-ins with the unions.
Tough boss.
Yeah, but no, I'm actually nice until but you have to get. You're nice, but you make sure constantly you're getting the job done.
Okay.
Yeah. So as long as you're getting the job done, then we are friends.
That's right.
But I'll be nice to you, and until get to a point where we can't.
Well, luckily your team had very nice things to say about you.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm happy that we got to share your story today here on Personality Profile. Good job. And I mean, you're on a daddy, wouldn't expect anything less. I mean, it's on a daddy here. We're talking about, you understand?
Thank you so much.
So thank you so much for spending time with us here on Personality Profile. God bless you. And we wish you good luck in the next phase of your life.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And you're doing such a great job.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sarpong. Yeah. Mr. Sarpong, a.k.a. Senior Sapini, the former MD of NIB here on Personality Profile on Joy 99.7 FM. Our video is live on Facebook, and go check it out if you missed any part of this conversation. Thank you for staying tuned with us. Thanks to the team as well. Uncle Ken will be on your radio very shortly. It's 8 o'clock. Enjoy your evening.